How's it going, everybody? Ragroth here. So now that the dust has settled a little bit on Mortal Kombat 1, there were some things I wanted to address with it. So I know one big criticism of the game, since it was shown off, at least the gameplay trailer, is that people think the graphics don't look much better than Mortal Kombat 11, or in some cases, some people actually think they look worse. Now, I'm not really here to tell you you're wrong or right. I personally think they look better, but I'm going to kind of get into a couple of reasons why I think they might not appear so great to at least some people. So one of the reasons I might as well address is this is sort of a double-headed reason. I think it's because the cameo characters look a bit less detailed than the playable characters, and I think also just in general there's a slightly different art style. Now, in regards to the cameos being less detailed than playable characters, as you can see, like, their faces are a little more off. I think their costumes are maybe a little less detailed or simpler. You can just definitely tell there's a little less work put into them, and I guess maybe when they pop up on screen, they can kind of appear, it makes the game seem more jarring. Like, it kind of takes away, maybe it indirectly takes away from the detail of the playable characters. I'm not sure, I'm just kind of theorizing why there's this maybe effect of why it looks worse, and I think it maybe is just because the cameo characters are a lower quality. And they are a little bit more cartoon looking. I think even the playable characters, though, are a bit more cartoony and maybe a little bit more stylized than they were in Mortal Kombat 11. And I think sometimes when there's a different art style, it does kind of appear the game has worse graphics or aesthetics. That's another whole other thing, graphics versus aesthetics. But this actually, funnily enough, reminds me of another WB game that was kind of ridiculed for having worse graphics, and that was Gotham Knights. I don't really think Gotham Knights has worse graphics than the Batman Arkham games. The problem is, or at least part of the problem, is that Gotham Knights just adapted a much different art style, and because it looked more cartoony, a lot of people thought it looked worse. But yeah, I think maybe just the jarringness and the different art style maybe throws some people off a little bit. Now, also in regards to cameo fighters and how they look. Now, of course, people are like, oh, well, the cameo characters should look just as good as the playable characters. This is unacceptable. Okay, fair enough, they should. But consider this. I think the cameo characters are probably a big reason why the playable roster is only at 24 or 25. Again. So now, if they put even more work in development to make them look just as good as the playable characters, there might be even less playable characters than this. So I think this is kind of a good middle ground. Another reason is because a lot of the costumes, I think, are a lot, and this is something a lot of people have pointed out, are that the costumes for a lot of characters so far that we've seen are a lot less detailed than Mortal Kombat 11. So they're much more simpler in design. Like Mortal Kombat 11, the costumes were a lot of them had a lot going on, for better or worse. I mean, I didn't mind Mortal Kombat 11's design, but the common consensus is that a lot of the costumes were over-designed. Now, in Mortal Kombat 1, at least a lot of the costumes we've seen so far, maybe not all of them, are much simpler. They're just much more straight-on, simpler clothes. Some characters just wear monk outfits. Johnny and Kenshi just kind of had like the suits on, just very standard outfit. And because that some of these outfits are more simpler, again, this might just be an effect of because it's more simple and basic, it makes it seem like the game has worse graphics. And a lot of the outfits are just very clean cut. They're not like dirty. There's not much detail in them or anything like that. Me personally, I kind of prefer them just being straight and clean. I don't really need like dirtied outfits and all that. It just, I don't know. For me, it just takes away. I understand how some people maybe like the detail. I don't really think it's necessary, at least not all the time. Maybe it depends on the character we're talking about as well. That's another thing too. I don't really think we've seen enough characters to really kind of know for sure, at least kind of maybe bring out this comparison. But I do think that, just the costumes in general are much simpler, and maybe because of this, it just looks like the game is just more basic looking. But then another reason I wanted to bring up, and maybe this is sort of the biggest reason, is that I think the graphics are just kind of peaking, basically. I think PS5 especially, I think we're just kind of not seeing as big of a graphic jump. I think we're just slowly getting a smaller incremental graphics increase every generation. I think PS5, it seems more, PS5 and Xbox Series S or Series X, it's, I think, a little bit more about like performance and lighting and all of that than it is like character model, things to that nature. And, you know, I know people bring up like, oh, but, you know, Street Fighter 6 looks so much better than Street Fighter 5, and Tekken 8 looks so much better than Tekken 7. Yeah, but look at Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7, and look at Mortal Kombat 11. Like, Mortal Kombat 11, I'm sorry. You know, you can maybe argue in terms of aesthetics, but in terms of graphics, Mortal Kombat 11 takes a dump on those two. So I think the thing is, Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7 just had a higher... They had more room to grow. And if you have more room to grow, you're going to notice more of a difference when that growth hits. Someone that just started playing violin is probably going to you're probably going to notice a more bigger increase in skill after they've played for 4 months versus a person who's a professional who's already basically perfected the craft, you know, practicing for another 4 months. Like, sure, yeah, the professional person will probably maybe still be better, but that how much they've gotten better probably won't seem as big to most people, at least. So I think, you know, Mortal Kombat 11 and Mortal Kombat 1 was kind of that, they're the professional violinist player, and Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6 are kind of that, they're more, I guess, I don't want to say beginners, because I don't want to say Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 7 are horrible looking games, but the point of the matter is they just had more room to grow, and I think that's why there's just such an increase in graphics for them. Not to mention, I mean, they are just generally less realistic looking games and a bit more stylized, which I will kind of give them that credit in over Mortal Kombat's favor. So they maybe have a little bit more of their aesthetics to work. Like, one big example, I mean, look at the new Spider-Man game. Hey, I mean, I love it. I'm super excited for that as well, just like Mortal Kombat 1. But I think most of us can agree, and a lot of people have actually been attacking the game for this, wrongfully so, may I add, for not looking that much better than Spider-Man in the first installment. So I'm not just noticing there's Mortal Kombat. A lot of games, they're just graphics, you just can't get that much better. And it also probably doesn't help that Mortal Kombat 11 did have a PS5 and Xbox Series upgrade, or at least a PS5 upgrade. I don't know how the Xbox Series does their upgrades or anything like that. So it's like we've already kind of seen a Mortal Kombat game with this generation, just not starting with this generation. And I do want to also point out that, okay, sure, maybe the character models aren't that much better, but look at the stages. Oh my god, there's just so much more detail, so much more color, more vibrance, more lighting going on. And I get it, you know, we don't notice the stages much. This is something that I've had to kind of, I didn't really notice until, you know, after the trailer came out and we've had more time to look and digest things, and other people pointed these things out. I wouldn't have noticed if it wasn't for other people pointing out, to be honest. But the stages are a huge improvement over Mortal Kombat 11. Not that Mortal Kombat 11 stages were bad, but these are definitely a huge improvement, and this is somewhere where I think it definitely does look more next gen. And not that this is going to be done on the PS4, but I think the UI has a little bit more life and color in it as well. Sure, it would have been nice to get those green and red health gauges from the old Mortal Kombat games, admittedly, but this is at least a step in the right direction. But these are just a couple things I wanted to just bring to people's attention, and I'm not, again, this isn't really trying to change your mind. If you don't think the game looks good, you don't think the game looks good. Nothing I can really say or do to change your mind on that, and I'm not trying to shill or anything like that. These are just some observations I've made that just maybe point out why maybe it comes off this way. And honestly, I'm not really a big graphics person. You know, I care more about gameplay and aesthetics. I mean, I think Mortal Kombat 1 looks good enough for me. I admittedly was maybe a little harsh on it at first. That was, I think, more just because I was kind of salty that we didn't kind of see more exciting character reveals. But I've kind of mellowed out a little bit on that and have seen a lot of other cool things for the game after watching the trailers and the gameplay more in depth. So that's really all I got to say for this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this. You know, if you think Mortal Kombat 1 graphically looks good, looks bad, looks okay. I'd really like your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video if you like it. Dislike if you dislike it. Definitely consider subscribing to like this video and some of my others. It would really help the channel out a lot. But regardless, thank you so much for checking out this video. And as I always say, another time, another place. Keep being awesome.